Watching this clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View.
What began as yet another hyper-polarized segment on The View exploded into a media event so viral, so culturally loaded, and so comedically dissected that even Joe Rogan couldn't resist turning the whole affair into a masterclass of mockery. This wasn't just TV drama, it became a culture war courtroom circus, and Joe Rogan stood at the edge of the ring with a mic, a smirk, and the perfect roast. And at the center of the mayhem? A $500 million defamation lawsuit, a fiery political upstart, a cast of opinionated daytime hosts, and a moment that would become internet canon. Karoline Leavitt, the Trump-endorsed conservative firebrand, didn't just appear on The View, she went to war with it. And when the show's panel, led by Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, and Sunny Hostin, turned what was supposed to be a political conversation into what many called a smear campaign, Leavitt didn't cower. She sued. For $500 million. No tweetstorm. No lengthy op-eds. Just a cold, hard, legal flamethrower dropped on one of daytime TV's most infamous echo chambers. The accusations?
They're prepared. And you know why they're prepared? Because they're trying to play gotcha.
Yep.
So she played gotcha with them. She checkmated them.
She came in there with that
defamation, character assassination, and what Leavitt's team called a coordinated media attack designed to discredit her on air. The response from The View? Dismissiveness, smug retorts, and casual attempts at doubling down. But outside ABC's polished studio walls, the internet, and especially Joe Rogan, had other plans. Rogan, never one to ignore a good media meltdown, pounced on the hypocrisy and weaponized his massive platform to torch the show in a way only he can. Rogan called out the segment as a staged ideological ambush, mocking how The View's panel tried to paint Leavitt as dangerous simply for being articulate and prepared. He applauded her for showing up with metaphorical armor and an Elon Musk-style flamethrower of receipts. Unlike The View's usual guests, Leavitt didn't melt under their cackling pressure. She flipped the script, challenged their talking points, and when they couldn't handle it, she filed suit. And Rogan? He reveled in it. Not with anger, but with amusement. On his podcast, he unleashed a tirade that was part political analysis, part comedy special. He described The View as Judge Judy with hot flashes, a bachelorette party of bad opinions, and where logic goes to be waterboarded by Twitter threads.
Dude, she's a gangster. Have you seen that video?
You've never
Jamie?
seen someone more prepared for a question in your life, Jamie.
Have you seen?
He joked that watching The View try to handle nuanced political debate was like watching toddlers solve the Middle East crisis with crayons and juice boxes. His commentary was ruthless but tapped into a very real cultural sentiment. Many are fed up with media institutions that present opinion as gospel and respond to any pushback with cries of victimhood. Sunny Hostin, in particular, became a target of Rogan's ire, not for her intellect, which he actually acknowledged, but for what he called ideological capture. In Rogan's view, Sunny is smart, but trapped in a worldview where anything that doesn't match her beliefs is inherently evil. She and her co-hosts, he argued, represent a version of media that performs outrage and conflates disagreement with danger. And when their attempts to corner Leavitt failed, they panicked. What made the situation even more ridiculous was the show's doubling down. After the lawsuit hit, The View tried to act like they were being persecuted for telling the truth. But Rogan dismantled that defense with one swift observation: you don't get to casually destroy someone's character on national television and then cry foul when they respond with a lawyer. He argued the lawsuit wasn't censorship, it was consequence. And judging by the public reaction, he wasn't the only one who felt that way. Greg Gutfeld, another prominent media voice, joined the commentary circus, mocking Sunny and her co-hosts for turning daytime television into ideological cosplay. He called it a rabies-infested henhouse, and described the show's format as a group therapy session for failed influencers.
Absolutely. They come in my office every day and they'll admit that off the record. Oh. Maybe not on the record, but they will say they appreciate.
His comments, though biting, reflected what many viewers have long suspected, that The View isn't really about discussion. It's about performance. And when that performance gets interrupted by someone who doesn't play along, the entire system glitches. The cherry on top came when Whoopi Goldberg launched into an unrelated rant about a Staten Island bakery refusing her cupcake order, claiming political bias, only for the bakery to hold a press conference explaining their boiler was broken. That moment became a metaphor for everything critics say is wrong with the show: performative outrage, detachment from reality, and a willingness to villainize anyone or anything that doesn't bow to the show's moral hierarchy. But for Joe Rogan, it all played perfectly into his narrative. Here was a case of a media empire overreaching and a guest finally fighting back. And he wasn't just cheering from the sidelines. He was framing it as a turning point in the media culture wars. His analysis was sharp, but more than that, it was accessible. He talked about the lawsuit the way regular people talk about unfair treatment, without legalese or diplomatic buffering. Just raw reactions and real talk. What truly set Rogan's response apart, though, was how he connected this moment to the larger cultural shift. He pointed out that the View's traditional model, controlling the narrative and silencing dissent, no longer works in a world where everyone has a microphone. The audience has changed. The old gatekeepers have lost their grip. And for every condescending eye roll from a panelist, there's now a podcast host ready to dissect it with millions listening. Karoline Leavitt's lawsuit may or may not win in court, but as Rogan made clear, she's already won the public narrative. She's being painted as the underdog who stood up to legacy media and took the hits without flinching. And The View, once seen as progressive pioneers, now look more like relics of a time when dissent could be silenced with smugness and applause signs. And Rogan, he gets the last laugh, literally. His roast of the entire situation, delivered between gulps of mushroom tea and rants about elk meat, is now immortalized in the collective memory of internet culture. He's not just reacting. He's archiving the collapse of performative media in real time and making a killing doing it. At its core, this clash isn't just about Karoline versus The View, or even conservative versus liberal. It's about authenticity versus artifice. About conversation versus curation. And in that arena, Joe Rogan remains undefeated, not because he's always right, but because he's willing to say what everyone else is too afraid to, in a world where filters have become force fields. So as the lawsuits fly and the cultural tide shift, one thing is clear. The daytime queens of commentary may still have the stage, but the microphone? That belongs to the guy in camo shorts, cracking jokes, talking truth, and grilling elk.